What's going on, y'all? So first and foremost, I just want to say this video ultimately is from the whitewashing comments that we have seen about Archer in this game. However, this is not entirely where we want to just stop at here. I want to talk about the whitewashing and why you see these things in Chinese video games in the first place from the jump, so that way y'all can stop kind of crying about it, because a lot of times I'll be seeing y'all crying about these things, and I'm tired of y'all crying about these things all up on my feed and my X feed and stuff like that. So I'm gonna need y'all to stop with that nonsense, okay? We're gonna get to it though. But first, be sure to like and subscribe. It helps out tremendously. Thank you very much. All right, y'all. So for a little premise here, pre-story time to jump into this, of course, you know, Archer and Saber and whatnot have been released as a collaborative effort, you know, in the game coming up here in this video game here that's from HoYoverse, from MihoYo, who is a company that is stationed within Shanghai, China. Well, MihoYo is who handles these games, and then of course HoYoverse is technically speaking headquartered in Singapore. But nonetheless, all the development stuff comes from Shanghai, China. Okay, now understand here that we've been seeing some comments about Archer and Archer's skin tone and whatnot. We'll just kind of play this little blip right here from the headline right here, or whatever we want to call it, live stream. And they're kind of talking about Archer's skin tone, talking about, oh wow, well, Archer's skin tone, they managed to whitewash this guy, and his skin tone is, you know, is so and so and so and so. Now, first and foremost, I guess I should probably show you the comment I'm kind of referencing here, because it got some traction. I have no idea why and how the hell it got some traction, but nonetheless, it did get some traction. So we're going to show that real quick. This is the comment right here. As you can see right here, plain and simple, clear as day, you can see crazy how there's a literal lore reason why Archer is tan and they still managed to whitewash him, laughing my bleep off. And of course, you see a plethora of likes here on this. And this person here who references the video that we just showed you, showing him there. And you see a lot of people down here, it's like he's not just dark-skinned character. He is a character that actively had skin darkened. You can't just ignore that. You can't just ignore that. You see lots of people kind of reacting to it, really feeding into it. And, you know, this person here is kind of more logical. This is just a lighting from the ultimate, which is really what this is. Ultimately, this is just a lighting from this ultimate as seen over here. Now, if you just kind of look at this here, he does the ultimate right here. You can see right there where the argument's kind of being made there on the face. You can see right here. We'll go back to it if this ever loads up. I'm not sure what's going on there. Taking a long time to load there, but we'll try to pause this right here. Right when it happens, boom. So as you can see there, it's a bit more lighter skin tone there. So it is partially probably because of the lighting, because when you look at the character, when there's just like standing still, you can see that the character is just kind of like, you can see the character's obviously tan. Remember, y'all, this isn't just about this. We're going to move on to some deeper stuff too, about the whole reason behind this. Okay, this is just, we have to set the preface. You know what I'm saying? We have to set it first, so that we understand why we're addressing this and why we're talking about it in the first place, right? You have to understand why we're even talking about it in the first place. But nonetheless, this is why we're talking about it. So as you can see here, they're really kind of just like getting at that. And obviously, as you see there, the character does appear to be a bit more, you know, what was it, a lighter skin tone. Whereas Archer is normally a kind of a darker skin tone character. As you can see here, and the lore behind that, by the way, the person was talking about, there's a literal lore behind it, is that the character used magic so much. Like, pretty much it's like, yo, it's like I use so much magic that it freaking darkened my skin. The character's actually a white character anyway. Well, it's a Japanese character anyway. But nonetheless, it pretty much they use a whole bunch of magic, so like the skin became more tan. Okay, it's not like they're like black or anything like that. But nonetheless, these people are really feeling some type of way about this thing. And you know, I really want to discuss in the first place why you see things like this and why you shouldn't really let it get to you in the first place. The fact of the matter, y'all, is that these companies, such as MihoYo, which are stationed in Shanghai, China, do not simply see these things the way you see it, which is why you see in games, all these other MihoYo games, you know, a lot of times we see this within the MihoYo community with other games talking about, you know, representation and all these types of things like that. You see this very often. But the fact of the matter is that they simply are just going with what they have. Like, look, y'all, it's real simple. It's real simple. And I know this may seem, you know, this may not be what you want to hear, but yo, dude, there are not that many foreigners in China. Plain and simple. And there sure as hell are not that many foreigners of skin color tone in China. Okay, you have to realize that the foreigner population in China is like it's like 0.05% are foreigners in China. Like, I'm not even joking on that stat. I'm not even joking on that stat line. In the entirety of of China, I guess, well, mainland China, and probably even if you include some of the other areas that are, China or not China. Not gonna get into those politics, but you will find that it's a very small foreign population, and so obviously MihoYo is in Shanghai, so this does increase their exposure because there's the population there for foreigners is a bit higher, but it's still like 3%. So, but pretty much what I'm getting at is that the average person in China is not going to have any interactions with a person of color. It's like it's not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong, because like a lot of times when people interact with people of color, from what I've seen, there's a lot of people who do vlogging and YouTubers and stuff like that who do content in China, and they're people of colors, right? And a lot of times what you really see is just people who are curious, like they're excited to meet someone, a foreigner who's actually of dark skin, of black, skin tone, because it's so rare. You don't see it there. Now, of course, representation, I understand y'all's issue here, but understand it's just two different cultures. So like this is why you should not really always like get on this so heavily, because the fact of the matter is that a lot of these people, a lot of these developers, maybe have never really even seen a black person in real life. And then the information that they do have is largely from what they see in media or on TV and whatnot. And let's face it, that's a lot of what they see on media and TV. Media and TV does not represent or show definitely people of my skin tone, black people, in the greatest of lights. And historically, it has not. Historically in movies, always the villains, or of course, a lot of people see blacks as like rappers, or not necessarily. You don't see very often, blacks like it's like, oh, established lawyers. Like that's not normally the trope that you see, right? It's not. So they kind of have this basis of what they see within the media, and that's not to fault them. That's to fault the rest of the freaking world for that's just a historical sense in it. But that falls into representation, and why it is important, and I understand why people want representation. Because it is important to have representation, especially for the youth, to see someone who looks like them, and see them in these positive roles, or as lead roles, or whatever. It's the same way as like people want strong female leads, right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It just applies to skin color. It's the exact same thing. How people really push for like strong female leads, and when there used to be just a lot of like strong male leads, right? It's the same thing. It's representation. So it's the exact same thing in that regard. But you have to understand that these societies, such as Shanghai, such as China, simply do not have foreigners for them to really experience and understand and view things in the same way that someone might view if they're in, say, the USA, whereas that's a mixing pot. There's a very large, even though it's still not nearly as large as the white population, but a very large black and just people of color population within the USA. So just understand that different societies are going to have different things. Now, like I said, I completely understand what y'all are saying and what representation, and I agree with representation 100%. It means a lot. It can really impact the youth and anyone and everyone in a positive way by seeing someone who looks similar to you and seeing them represented in a great way, in a positive way. Because honestly, as someone who is a person of color, someone who's black, I know how much what we see on the media and whatnot has really just corrupted and destroyed the whole community, and it's continuously fed into. But that's a topic for another day that I'm not going to get into, because a lot of y'all are not ready for that. Let's be completely honest, and that's not really trying to hang up on that too long. I just really want to address what the issue was here and why y'all see things like y'all see with the whole Archer thing, and why I tried to tell y'all, like, it's not something that you really need to overly like get upset about. It's not like they're trying to intentionally just like, oh, just whitewash everyone. It's just really they don't have a reference point growing up or anything like that. It's a really been recent at that. You see increased numbers of even having people, foreigners over there, and people of colors. Most of the foreigners over there are white. So, I mean, you don't really have, and of course, whites have always been, white skin has always been viewed and revered in a positive light throughout the course of history. So that's, it is what it is. I'm just talking the facts here. Whatever, it's just what it is. And of course, darker skin has always been viewed in a generally negative light because of how history has chosen to perceive it that way, right? But at any rate, I just want to touch on this. Hopefully, y'all actually hear this and y'all not like, oh, well, this is this. No, I'm just speaking to this logically, just laying down some truth, some facts to y'all so you can understand. It's like the foreigner population in China is literally 0.05% or so. And then within that, you're looking at people of color. You know what I'm saying? You don't really have a large sample size here. And that's why you often see things like this, because there's not really a strong reference point for them to really base on. Different cultures have different viewpoints, have different understandings of the world, and you're kind of a product of your environment. So if you don't really see these people around, then you're not necessarily you think that your whole, well, I mean, honestly, your whole user base, which is primarily Chinese players, that's the target user base is primarily is Chinese players. Obviously, most of them have never seen a black person in person, right? They don't really see people who have dark skin tones. Of course, there's darker skinned Asians, of course. We're picking at needles now. We're picking at hairs. You know what I'm saying? We're very much picking at hairs. Of course, there's darker skinned Asians, but especially within China, within Chinese, that's not really something you see a whole lot of, right? So understand that. Not trying to cause any commotion, but I just want to explain this to you. Like I said, this is a bit deeper than just the Honkai Star Rail stuff, and this is more so on just kind of give you a broader understanding. This can be applied to anything. So this can be applied to all these other games. This can be applied to any of this is why you see this with studios that maybe come out of China. And like I said, it's not to fault them. It's not to fault them. They're not necessarily intentionally trying to do that. It's just different. They grew up in a very different world and environment. And that's why, there is a reason to push towards inclusion or representation. But you just have to face that. That's just not, it's not just going to happen the way you would like it to happen as quickly as you would like it to happen. So here's what it is. Anyway, y'all, be sure to like and subscribe. I'll see y'all in the next video. Comment down below. Let me know what you think about all this. Would love to have a discussion about it. If I can help y'all to understand any more of this, then that would be great. Don't really care for any people trying to twist or turn this in any type of way. Like I said, I'm indifferent either way. I understand. I put myself in both people's shoes, so I understand it. As a black person, as a black man, I understand it. Who has dealt with all this type of stuff, I understand it. But I put myself in these other people's shoes to bring the full picture together. That's what I'm trying to present to y'all. So anyway, be sure to like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Much love. Holla.
Spike content.